My family ignored my 30th birthday completely, then demanded $1,800 per person for Dad's retirement party. So I laughed, said absolutely not, and revealed I'd already paid the entire $75,000 venue bill they were about to split. Welcome, family. If this story touches your heart, show some love by subscribing and letting us know where you're watching from. Now let's go on with the story. I woke up on my 30th birthday to absolute silence. No messages. No calls. Nothing. I stared at my phone, refreshing my notifications like some desperate teenager. The screen remained blank except for promotional emails and spam. My chest tightened as I scrolled through my family group chat. 17 members strong, always buzzing with someone's news, someone's drama, someone's everything. Today, dead quiet. Maybe they're planning something, I whispered to myself, making coffee in my downtown apartment. The city hummed outside my window, indifferent to my hope. I'd spent the last decade being the family backbone. The one who remembered every birthday, who organized surprises, who showed up when nobody else would. My phone buzzed. Finally. My heart leaped. It was my mother. Emily, your father and I need to discuss something important with you. Family meeting Sunday at noon. Don't be late. That was it. No, happy birthday. No acknowledgement whatsoever. I read it 3 times, each time feeling smaller. Sunday was 4 days away. 4 days after my 30th birthday, and she couldn't spare 5 seconds to acknowledge it. I set my phone down, hands shaking slightly. Deep breath. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe they were all in on some elaborate surprise. I'd given them the benefit of the doubt before. I'd do it again. But as the hours crawled by, through my morning, my lunch, my entire workday, the silence grew louder. By evening, when my best friend Maya called singing happy birthday, I broke down crying. She knew immediately something was catastrophically wrong. Sunday arrived like a storm I'd seen building on the horizon. I pulled up to my parents' house, the same house where I'd grown up, where family photos lined the walls like a shrine to belonging. My brother Ashton's Mercedes was already there, gleaming in the driveway. So was my sister Linda's Range Rover. Of course they were early. Inside, everyone sat in the living room like some twisted tribunal. Mom, Dad, Ashton, Linda, and her husband Devon. My Aunt Patricia was there too, perched on the ottoman like a sentinel. The room smelled like Mom's vanilla candles and betrayal. Emily. Finally. Mom said, not getting up. We've been waiting. I'm 5 minutes early, I said quietly, checking my watch. Nobody apologized. Dad cleared his throat. We're here to discuss my retirement party. 65th birthday, 40 years at the firm. It's a milestone. My stomach twisted. 4 days after completely ignoring my birthday, we were planning his party. The irony wasn't lost on me. We've secured the Crystal Pavilion downtown, Ashton announced proudly. Top-tier venue. 200 guests. Premium everything. Sounds expensive, I said carefully. $75,000, Dad said like he was announcing the weather. We're splitting it among family. That's $1,800 per person. The number hit me like a physical blow. $1,800. They couldn't send a text message on my birthday, but they wanted $1,800 for his party. When's the party? I asked. 6 weeks, Linda said, scrolling her phone. Plenty of time to get the money together. My hands clenched in my lap. Plenty of time. 1,800 is a lot, I said slowly, watching their faces. Nobody flinched. Nobody showed any awareness of the cosmic joke unfolding. It's Dad's retirement, Emily, Ashton said, using that condescending tone he'd perfected in business school. Some things are more important than money. I almost laughed. Ashton, who'd borrowed $5,000 from me last year for his investment opportunity, and never paid back a cent. Ashton, who drove a $70,000 car while claiming he was cash poor. Remember when Emily paid for my wedding venue? Linda suddenly said. Everyone perked up. Finally, acknowledgement. That was so generous. See, she understands family investment. My jaw tightened. I'd paid $12,000 for Linda's wedding venue 3 years ago when she and Devon came up short. They'd promised to pay me back within 6 months. I was still waiting. But sure, let's call it understanding family investment. This is different though, Aunt Patricia interjected. This is for your father. The man who raised you, sacrificed for you. The guilt card. Dad sat there looking regal, accepting their praise like it was oxygen. Mom nodded along, her expression expectant. I need to think about it, I finally said. The room temperature dropped 20 degrees. Think about what? Dad's voice had an edge now. I'm your father. I know who you are, I replied quietly. I just need to check my finances. Ashton scoffed. You make good money at that tech firm. Don't act like you can't afford it. How did he know my salary? Had they been discussing my finances behind my back? I left that meeting feeling hollowed out. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, staring at their perfect house with its perfect lawn. A house I'd contributed to when Dad had that emergency roof repair 2 years ago. $4,000 I'd given without hesitation. Without asking for repayment because family doesn't keep receipts. My phone rang. How'd it go? She asked. They want $1,800 for Dad's retirement party. Silence. Then, did they mention your birthday? Not once. My voice cracked. Not once, Maya. It's like it never happened. Emily, you know this is wrong, right? Like, objectively wrong. I did know. Somewhere deep down I'd always known. But acknowledging it meant confronting something I'd spent 30 years avoiding. That maybe I wasn't actually part of this family equation. Maybe I was just the bank they withdrew from. That week, the group chat exploded with party planning. Color schemes. Menu options. Entertainment. My phone pinged constantly with their excitement. Each notification felt like a tiny knife. Nobody asked my opinion. They just expected my money. Wednesday night, Ashton texted privately. Mom says you're being difficult about the party contribution. What's the problem? I stared at that message for 10 minutes. What's the problem? Where did I even start? No problem, I typed back. Just figuring out logistics. Good. Don't embarrass Dad by making this about you. About me. Right. How selfish of me to have feelings about being completely ignored on a milestone birthday, then immediately hit up for money. I spent that Thursday night doing something I'd never done before. I made a list. Every single dollar I'd given my family over the past 5 years. My hands shook as the number grew. Linda's wedding venue, $12,000. Ashton's investment, $5,000. Dad's roof repair, $4,000. Mom's car down payment, $3,500. Ashton's rent, various months, $6,200. Linda's credit card emergency, $2,800. Family vacation I graciously funded, $8,500. Christmas gifts, I always spent the most, roughly $4,000 total. Various other small requests, $3,200. The total made me nauseous. $49,200. Almost $50,000 in 5 years. Not loans, gifts. Family helping family. None of it ever repaid. None of it ever even acknowledged as sacrifice on my part. I pulled up my bank statements, seeing the transfers in cold digital clarity. Each one had a memory attached. Linda crying about her dream wedding. Ashton swearing this investment would change his life. Dad looking disappointed when I'd hesitated about the roof. And what had I gotten for my 30th birthday? Silence. Then a bill. My doorbell rang. Maya stood there with wine and determination. I can see it on your face, she said, pushing past me. You're doing that thing where you talk yourself into giving them money. I'm not. Yes, you are. You're remembering every guilt trip they've ever given you. Every time they called you selfish. Every time they made you feel like you owed them something for existing. She wasn't wrong. Maya poured wine with the intensity of someone on a mission. Tell me exactly what happened at that meeting. I walked her through everything. The casual demand. The expectation. The complete lack of awareness about my birthday. As I spoke, her expression shifted from sympathetic to furious. $1,800, she repeated slowly. After ignoring your 30th birthday. Do they even know they forgot? I don't think they realize they did anything wrong. Maya's laugh was sharp. Of course they don't. Because you've spent 30 years training them that your feelings don't matter. That you'll always show up, always pay up, always shut up. Her words stung because they were true. I'd been complicit in my own erasure. Every time I'd swallowed disappointment, every time I'd prioritized their comfort over my dignity, I'd taught them exactly how to treat me. What do? I asked quietly. What do you want to do? I thought about that. Really thought about it. What did I want? I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted to matter. I wanted them to realize that I was a person with feelings, not just a checkbook with legs. I want to say no, I whispered. It felt revolutionary. Then say no. But then Dad's party is not your responsibility, Maya interrupted firmly. Emily, you're not responsible for funding everyone else's life. You're not responsible for making everything perfect. You're allowed to have boundaries. Boundaries. Such a simple word for such a complicated concept. I'd never had boundaries with my family. Boundaries were for people who didn't care enough, who weren't committed enough, who weren't family enough. But maybe boundaries were actually for people who cared about themselves. Friday morning I woke up with startling clarity. I wasn't going to give them $1,800. The decision sat in my chest like a stone, heavy but solid. I texted the family group chat. Need to discuss the party contribution. Can we meet? Within minutes, responses flooded in. Most were annoyed variations of, what's there to discuss? Ashton sent a private text. You're really going to make this difficult? We agreed on Sunday afternoon. Same house. Same people. Different Emily. I spent the weekend preparing. Not just mentally but practically. I printed out my list of contributions. I gathered bank statements. I wasn't going in emotional this time. I was going in armed with facts. Maya called Saturday night. Remember, you don't owe them an explanation. No, is a complete sentence. I know. But I wanted them to understand. I wanted them to see what they'd done, who they'd been. Maybe that was naive. Emily, Maya said gently, they're not going to have some big revelation where they realize they've been terrible. People like that don't work that way. You're not going there to change them. You're going there to free yourself. Sunday arrived. I dressed carefully, professional, put together, armor. In the mirror I practiced my speech. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. I was ready. When I pulled up to the house, my brother's Mercedes gleamed mockingly. Inside they were already assembled, looking impatient. Mom glanced at her watch pointedly. Let's make this quick, Dad said. I have a golf game at 3. Of course he did. I sat down, folder in my lap. Everyone stared at me with varying degrees of annoyance. Linda was texting. Ashton looked actively angry. Only Aunt Patricia seemed curious about what I'd say. I'm not contributing $1,800 to Dad's retirement party, I stated clearly. The room erupted. Excuse me. Mom's voice could have cut glass. You heard me. I'm not paying. Ashton leaned forward. This is about Dad. How can you be so selfish? There was that word again. Selfish. The word they'd wielded like a weapon my entire life. But today it bounced off me. Let me tell you about selfish, I said, opening my folder. 5 years ago I started keeping track. Linda, your wedding venue, $12,000. Never repaid. Ashton, your various emergencies, $11,200 total. Never repaid. Dad's roof repair, $4,000. Mom's car, $3,500. I pulled out the spreadsheet. The room had gone silent. In total, I've given this family $49,200 over 5 years. That's not including emotional labor, time, or the countless other ways I've shown up for everyone here. We're family, Mom interjected weakly. Family helps each other. You're right, I agreed. Family does help each other. So let me ask, when was my 30th birthday? Blank stares. Complete absolute blank stares. It was last Sunday, I said quietly. The day before you demanded $1,800 from me. Not a single person in this room acknowledged it. Not a text. Not a call. Nothing. Linda's face flickered with something, guilt maybe? But she recovered quickly. We've been busy planning Dad's party. Too busy to send a text? My voice remained steady, but emotion thrummed underneath. In 5 years I've given nearly $50,000 to this family. I've shown up for every event, every emergency, every crisis. And on my 30th birthday, a milestone, you all couldn't spare 30 seconds. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We didn't forget intentionally. Intention doesn't matter when the impact is the same, I replied. The impact is that I felt completely invisible. Worthless. Like I only matter when you need something from me. That's not fair, Ashton protested. We appreciate you. Show me. I gestured to the room. Show me one example from the past year where any of you went out of your way for me the way I do for you. The silence was deafening. Aunt Patricia cleared her throat. Maybe we have taken Emily for granted. Everyone shot her looks. She ignored them. Maybe she has a point. Thank you, I said softly. But here's the thing, I'm done. Done being the family bank. Done being invisible until you need something. Done setting myself on fire to keep you warm. So you're going to ruin Dad's retirement party? Linda's voice dripped with accusation. Because your feelings got hurt? I laughed then. Actually laughed. Ruin it? Well, I would never ruin Dad's party. Everyone relaxed slightly, misreading my tone. In fact, I continued, I've already made sure Dad's party will be absolutely perfect. Confusion rippled through the room. What do you mean? Mom asked carefully. The Crystal Pavilion. $75,000. Top tier everything. I smiled. I paid the entire bill 3 weeks ago. You could have heard a pin drop. Ashton spoke first. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that 3 weeks ago when I heard Dad casually mention his retirement party dreams, I called the Crystal Pavilion. I negotiated. I secured everything he wanted. And I paid the full $75,000. Mom's hand flew to her chest. $75,000. I finished. I wiped out a significant portion of my savings to give Dad the retirement party of his dreams. I did it because I love him. Because despite everything, I wanted him to have something special. Dad stared at me like he'd never seen me before. So when you all sat here and told me I needed to pay $1,800? I continued. When you acted like I was being difficult. You were asking me to pay twice for something I'd already fully funded. Why didn't you tell us? Linda demanded. Why didn't any of you remember my birthday? I countered. I was going to surprise Dad. Make it this beautiful gift. But then my 30th birthday came and went like I didn't exist. Then you demanded more money. And I realized something. I stood up, gathering my papers. I realized that no matter how much I give, it'll never be enough. You'll always expect more. You'll always take me for granted. Because I taught you that you could. Emily, wait. Dad finally spoke. I don't understand. If you already paid, why let us plan to split costs? Because I wanted to see. I wanted to see if even one person would say, maybe we should check on Emily first. If anyone would remember my birthday. If anyone would question whether asking me for money right after ignoring me was cruel. Nobody had. Not one person. You manipulated us, Ashton spat. You played games. I set a boundary, I corrected. There's a difference. You're just upset because for once I didn't immediately roll over. Mom was crying now. Real tears or performance. I couldn't tell anymore. How could you do this to your father? Do what? Pay for his entire party? Make sure his special day is perfect? I've done nothing but give to Dad. To all of you. But you made us look foolish, Linda said. Planning everything, discussing costs. You made yourselves look foolish by assuming I'd just hand over money on demand. By treating me like an ATM instead of a daughter. Sister. A person. Aunt Patricia stood up. Emily's right. We've all been complicit in this. Using her generosity without appreciation or reciprocation. Stay out of this, Patricia, Mom snapped. No, Aunt Patricia said firmly. Someone needs to say it. This girl has bent over backwards for this family, and we've given her nothing but expectations and demands in return. I looked at my aunt with surprise and gratitude. At least someone saw it. Dad finally stood. He looked old, suddenly tired. Emily, I don't know what to say. You could start with thank you, I suggested quietly. You could acknowledge that I paid for your entire party because I love you, even though you forgot I existed on my birthday. I didn't forget. Yes, you did. You all did. And you know what? That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in this family. I moved toward the door. Ashton blocked my path. Where are you going? Home. To my life. The one I'm going to start actually living for myself. You can't just leave, Ashton said, but his voice wavered. Watch me. I stepped around him. The party's paid for. Everything's arranged. You don't need me for anything else. Emily, please. Mom's voice cracked. Don't be like this. I turned back. They all looked smaller somehow. Diminished. I'm not being like anything. I'm being honest for the first time in 30 years. I'm telling you that this hurts. That I matter. That I deserve better. We'll do better, Linda offered weakly. We'll remember next year. Next year, I repeated. You'll remember my 31st birthday after forgetting my 30th? After everything that's happened today, that's what you're offering. Silence. I've spent my whole life waiting for you all to see me, I said, emotion finally breaking through. Really see me. Not as a resource or a solution to your problems, but as a person who has needs and feelings too. And today proved you never will. That's not true, Dad said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Dad, when's the last time you asked how I was doing? Really asked? Not as a prelude to asking for something, but because you genuinely cared about my answer. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Couldn't answer. That's what I thought. Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not here. Not now. I'm not cutting you off. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm just done being invisible except when it's convenient for you. So that's it. Ashton challenged. You're just going to walk away from your family? No, I said softly. You all walked away from me a long time ago. I'm just finally accepting it. I left, then walked out into the afternoon sun. Behind me I heard arguing, crying, but I kept walking. Dad's retirement party was magnificent. The crystal pavilion sparkled like a jewel. 200 guests celebrated 40 years of his career. The food was exquisite. The speeches were touching. Everything I'd planned and paid for came together beautifully. I attended wearing a blue dress and a practiced smile. People kept complimenting what the family had put together. I didn't correct them. Ashton and Linda accepted praise for the venue choice like they'd made it. Mom basked in the attention. Dad gave a speech thanking his wonderful family for the celebration. He looked at me when he said it. Our eyes met across the room. Something passed between us. Acknowledgement, maybe. Regret. But not apology. Never apology. After the party I went home alone. My apartment felt quieter than usual. I sat on my couch, still in my dress, and finally let the tears come. Not angry tears. Sad ones. Grieving tears. I was grieving the family I'd wanted. The one I'd tried to build with money and sacrifice and endless giving. That family had never existed. They'd never seen me the way I desperately wanted to be seen. Maya came over, let herself in with her key. Found me crying on the couch. Oh, honey, she whispered, pulling me close. I gave them everything, I sobbed. And it still wasn't enough. I was never enough. No, Maya said fiercely. You were always enough. They just weren't capable of seeing it. The next week I started therapy. Began unpacking 30 years of being the family caretaker. Started learning that love shouldn't cost everything you have. That boundaries weren't selfish. They were survival. My family reached out sporadically. Awkward texts about weather and generic life updates. Nobody mentioned the party. Nobody mentioned my birthday. We existed in this strange limbo. Technically family, practically strangers. 3 months later, on what would have been another family gathering, I took myself on a trip instead. Sat on a beach alone watching the sunset and felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. But peace. The peace of knowing I'd finally chosen myself. That I'd stopped waiting for people to love me the way I loved them. I posted a photo, just the sunset, nothing else. My phone buzzed. Messages from college friends, work colleagues, Maya. People who actually saw me. My family chat stayed silent. And for the first time in my life, that silence didn't hurt. It was just honest. I'd given them one last gift, the truth. What they did with it wasn't my responsibility anymore. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I whispered to the ocean, I'm enough. I've always been enough. The waves agreed, endless and unchanging, and I finally believed it. Sometimes love means letting go, not of the people but of the hope that they'll become who you need them to be. I was free. Heartbroken but free. And maybe eventually that would be enough too. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe, because sometimes the family we choose is more important than the one we're born into. You deserve to be seen. Always.